petition to release him. Let's bring in Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School and author of many best-selling books. One of his latest ones right here, The 10 Big Anti-Israel Lies. Professor Alan Dershowitz, always a pleasure to have you, sir. You know, it's pretty outrageous. So we have security measures being ramped up now at Columbia, but the attorney for the student just said that ICE agents were, detaining him. They didn't know. Marco Rubio is pretty clear. I'll put up the tweet that John just had. They are going to deport people who are connected to Hamas, revoking visas and green cards. Is it more complicated if someone has a green card vis-a-vis a visa?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. They have more rights. But the question is, do they have the right to remain in the United States if they violate American law? Now, the important line to draw is between pure free speech, that is standing up and holding a placard or expressing a view, and blocking access to a classroom or disrupting a classroom. And if this guy or anyone else occupied a building, violated the law in any way, he can be immediately deported, whether he has a green card or just a visa. But if he engaged in pure, protected, free speech under the First Amendment, the issues would be quite different. But the evidence seems to suggest that he went beyond free speech and was involved in illegal activities. We'll wait and see.
We sure will. We know you played a key role, Professor Dershowitz, in the first administration under President Trump to draft this 2019 executive order, which basically said discrimination against Jews is a violation of Title VI Civil Rights Act. And you've been, at this for quite some time. When you see a statement from this graduate student's attorney saying we have not been able to get any more details about why he's being detained, and then you see a petition and 125,000 people have already signed it, clearly we know there's a problem with anti-Semitism erupting across college campuses nationwide. But yet we also see a resistance here and the activists persisting despite this pull of the funding. What's your reaction?
Well, I'd like to see these 125,000 people also sign a petition saying that you can't discriminate against Jews or Zionists and you can't intimidate them and you can't break into classes. So let's draw the appropriate lines. And the appropriate line is drawn at speech versus conduct. Conduct that's not protected by the First Amendment is subject to criminal prosecution. And these 125,000 people should be signing petitions on both sides. We can strike the appropriate balance. Let people protest as long as there's a single standard. You can say anything about Jews that you can also say about blacks and transgenders and gays. But no university, for example, would allow demonstrations calling for the raping of women or the lynching of blacks. And yet they do permit demonstrations in favor of lynching of Jews, as happened to 1,200 of them on October 7th, and the raping of women. So universities have to have a single standard if they want to get funding from the federal government, because they have no right to funding. That's a privilege, and it ought to be given to universities only to serve the national interest. For example, medical research, scientific research. Those grants ought to be continued. But, for example, take Barnard's program on women's studies, which is totally ideological and says it supports the end of hierarchy and patriarchy and sexism and racism. This is not academics. This is advocacy.
Right. And you're clear. I mean, this is a privilege. And even at Harvard, I mean, we've seen, some of the professors, and this has been decades, so many say, in the making, that seeped in through, Marxist ideology, and it really has exploded in recent years. Now at a point where students, so you say, they don't feel safe. And yet here we have, students saying they're going to continue on. Are schools going to get a handle on this because now they're going to see what happened to Columbia? Is this the final straw, you think, for them allowing this hate-filled activism that we know is funded by a lot of dark money groups there? Because there's no way they all have the same tents just cropping up, one by one, each day by day. Yeah.
There's an organization called Code Pink, which is a front for the Chinese Communist Party. We know it. There's evidence of it. And they support many of these demonstrations on campus, but mostly they're populated by these useful idiot kids who have no idea what they're protesting, don't know where the sea is and where the river is. They're just, there's a protest, so let's join the protest. Let's bring America down.